Welcome back to the channel. In the last video, I test fit the cab. The old isolators were kind of tweaked from the accident. I just wanted to set the cab down on the frame, make sure the cab wasn't tweaked from the accident. Luckily, crossing my fingers, it wasn't, so good thing the cab is good. I have the new isolators. They came in the mail today. I'm gonna lift the cab up around 6 inches, put the new isolators on, lower it back down. I also went to Fastenal, kind of broke down, got some drill bits. The the DeWalt drill bits I was using were pretty much junk, so I got some good drill bits. Gonna drill out these frame rails, pull them off, put the new one on, and kind of get this thing buttoned up. I also got the crossbar for the tranny cooler bolt on, so a lot of stuff should be going on in this video, and a lot of stuff should be getting done. So I have the box right here of all the mounts and the crossbar that mounts the tranny cooler. So I'm gonna open this thing. So what I've been waiting on here is the crossbar. This bolts right there on the in between the frame. This holds the transmission cooler. Also, I needed the isolators for the front of the truck that those rails right there go to on the frame. So I got new ones of those because the ones off of there were ripped on the inside. And then I got 4 of these. These go to the frame, and they pretty much isolate the cab from the frame. The last thing I ended up getting was a good set of drill bits so I can get those rails out, and that should solve my issue with that. Body is now finally permanently bolted to the new frame. I'm really excited about this. Now I'm going to try those new drill bits out, try to get this rail off. So now that the cab is permanently bolted back on, I can reconnect the steering shaft, the master cylinder, and the the hydro boost lines. Look at that. The new frame rail is kind of mocked up. I still need to figure out how I'm going to rivet it. It doesn't have any holes in the right around here. There's supposed to be rivets all in there that connect to this right there. So what I'm probably going to do, it was kind of weird because when I think of rivets, I think of ones that are removable, which these ones I'm not exactly sure what's going on with them. So I'll probably I'll remove this rail again, drill all of them out, grind these down if they don't fall out. Not exactly sure why they're not. And then come back, drill, come back, put this rail back on permanently, drill through the holes that are already there, and then go from there and re-rivet the rail back on there. So everything lines up, and the only reason that's all wavy is because I didn't know, and I kind of pried on it. So it'll suck back down when I put the hinge back on, because this is all straight. right, so I was thinking about keeping this on here and not changing it, but I was looking into it a little bit more. I believe it is straight this way, but I don't think this bottom piece right here is straight. So what I'm talking about is if you look down at it, so it does bolt in that hole perfectly, but this bar right here goes off towards the fan. So it would never line up with that other one. I did order this. I could, you know, just stick that new one in there and tweak it back, but who knows if it will be correct and if the fender is gonna line up. So what I'm gonna do is, since I already ordered one of these, I'll save this one. If, you know, eventually I do get another, you know, 17 to 19, I'll have this and I could, you know, straighten it later or worry about straightening it later. Or I could sell it on Craigslist and tell them what's going on with it. Still looks like it is straight, but I'm just kind of sketched out about this whole bottom piece kind of being a little tweaked possibly. But yeah, it definitely wouldn't line up with this side. So what I'm going to do is drill out these rivets. And I did watch a video on these. So how Ford does these rivets is, it's not a rivet per se. It's more of a, so they come in from this this side of the metal, and they press. It kind of presses it, and you would think that this is actually a rivet, but that's just the aluminum flares out. So what the rivet actually does is it presses in and it flares out, but it never actually pierces the back aluminum plate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill these all the way through, and I'm just gonna use some pop rivets because you know, Ford has this extractor tool, but then it puts a hole in the metal, which then in turn you have to use like a through rivet. So a pop rivet is the same thing. It will work just as well. I'll still use the adhesive just as it's applied here, like you're supposed to. It doesn't really matter. It bolts here and it bolts up here and then it bolts from the back. So these are just, you know, for structural, a little bit more rigidity. The more rivets you have per square inch, the more rigid a piece of metal is. So that's obviously why, you know, this whole thing up here didn't get tweaked in the accident, because all these rivets kind of kept the bar straight, instead of it, you know, just going with these bolts. If all these rivets weren't here, the bar would have wanted to, you know, push further down, and it probably would have tweaked the whole cab right here. So all these rivets were really good. So these drill bits did work a lot nicer than the ones that I had from DeWalt. So I got these from Fastenal. You know, I was pretty impressed by how well they cut. And I guess he said they have a lifetime warranty, so if they ever break, I just take them back and they give me new ones, which is awesome. So yeah, let me drill this side out. All I have to do is drill this back side, and why I drill the back side instead of the other side is this side is removable. I don't want to really destroy the this side of the metal, this aluminum plate, because then I'd have to replace it further down, and I want to be able to drill it to the correct size pop rivet. And I'm going to use a large pop rivet. I need to go to the store to get some. So, and you know, in turn using that, I need to figure out what size I need to drill that hole. So I'll just drill them so the rivets come out, and then go from there. And the one bad thing about this whole process is on the other side, my Milwaukee drill started to die. It actually works, but only in the slow speed. It won't go into high speed anymore. So if you flip the switch, it pretty much stays in one speed. So that kind of makes this whole process take quite a bit longer. I don't know, I need to buy another one of these, and my little you know, 90-degree side ratchet broke quite a while ago, and I've just been putting it off. It really would help this whole process out, you know, taking it apart and putting it back together, but you know, I didn't have it, so I need to, you know, replace both of these. Milwaukee, I mean, they last a long time, but obviously they still do break. So I now have the rail kind of mocked up. I need to pretty much weld. There's 3 plugs that you need to weld there, 3 there, and then the same on the other side. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to line this thing up. I kind of matched how it was on the other rail. This kind of showed that that square down there a little bit, but still I am not exactly sure how to get it perfectly lined up on there before I weld it together, other than putting the fenders and the hood on and then lining that up. And also I need the other one over there, and that might help a little bit more with lining it up. Let me go grab it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So what I'm talking about is this top crossbar. It pretty much sits in that hole on this rail over here. There's a little pin that goes in it to center it. The issue I'm having with all my parts is every part I've got, well, almost every part, has been missing something, or something's been wrong with it. Ford really needs to step their game up. This side is missing the little locator pin, that little plastic pin right there on this side. So pretty disappointed about that. You can see it was in there because there was paint on it, but it is it's missing, so that's great. But this literally just sets, where's that? Sets in there, and then there's some bolt holes. So it sets in there. There's some bolt holes right there. It pretty much, there's some bolt holes over there. And what I'm gonna do is I'll bolt this thing on, I'll bolt the core support on, and then I'll weld everything. That should get me centered, and everything should line up. I'm gonna kind of go with that theory to center everything and make sure everything is aligned, because if the core support bolts on centered and this bolts on centered, all the headlights, the fenders, everything else should be the correct height to the rest of the, you know, the hood, and the correct spacing and everything like that, because these actually center the 2 rails. So I'll do that, then I'll do the plug welds on the bottom. All right, so you can see that I drilled out the rivets, holes drilled for the driver's side. So you can see I started drilling the weld holes, or plug welds, whatever you want to call it. What's going to happen is this piece, well, not this one, but the new one will be behind here. I'll pretty much grind down the surface, and I'll start the weld on this piece of metal for the fender support after I get everything lined up. And I'll pretty much just walk it out and connect it to this piece of metal. And I just drilled through on both sides. I need to do 2 more right here, and then 2 more right here. So other than that, you know, I could have this together if I had that other bar done. I think I'm just gonna use one of the ones that I got that were kind of a little tweaked. I think I have one that literally, this thing is just kind of like tacoed down. So that is the end of this episode of the F350 build. I'm glad that I got the cab permanently bolted on with the new mounts and bolts. That is a big weight lifted off my chest. I mean, I was worried that the cab was going to be tweaked and bent. I bolted it down, the doors open correctly, the cab lines up, it's not tweaked or anything, which is nice. I did get the old fender supports drilled out and taken off the truck, which is a relief, because now I could come in with the new ones. Once I get the driver's side one, I can line everything up, weld everything on, and then bolt all the body panels on. If you like this video and this project, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure to click that subscribe button. Also next to the subscribe button is a bell. It gets you notifications when I post videos just like this. Below is my Instagram handle. Go check out my Instagram page. It has a lot of behind the scenes pictures before the videos come out. Also below right here is my Patreon, or in the description is my Patreon. Go check it out. I also post pictures before I post them on Instagram. So if you're not on my Patreon, go check it out. Hopefully you like this video, and see you guys in the next episode.